I never believed in ghosts. That was until my family and I moved into the Harper House. An imposing Victorian mansion, it stood at the edge of our small town, its history as old as the cobbled streets that lined our neighborhood. Its towering spires and intricate woodwork spoke of a bygone era, and despite its state of disrepair, there was something undeniably majestic about it. When we first saw the house, it was as if it called out to us. My parents, thrilled by the idea of restoring a piece of history, quickly decided to make it our new home. I, on the other hand, couldn't shake off a feeling of unease that crept up my spine as we crossed the threshold. The first few weeks were filled with the chaos of moving and renovation. It was during this time that I started to notice strange occurrences. At first, it was just the feeling of being watched. I'd be alone in a room and suddenly feel a chill run down my back, as if someone's gaze was fixed upon me. Then it escalated. Objects began to move on their own. A vase that I was sure I had placed on the mantel would appear on the dining table. My father's tools would vanish, only to be found in the most unlikely places. My parents brushed it off, attributing it to the stress of the move. But one night, everything changed. I woke up to a sound that seemed to come from the hallway outside my room. It was a soft, dragging sound, like someone was pulling something heavy across the floor. Heart pounding, I mustered the courage to investigate. The hallway was dark, the only light coming from the moon outside, casting eerie shadows on the walls. The sound continued, now accompanied by a faint, raspy whispering. I couldn't make out the words, but the voice sent shivers down my spine. I followed the sound, which led me to the old library. The door, which was usually shut, was ajar. Pushing it open, I peered inside. That's when I saw it, a shadowy figure hunched over, dragging a heavy chain across the floor. Its movements were slow, deliberate. I wanted to run, to scream, but I was frozen in place. The figure stopped, and in the dim light, I could see it turn towards me. Its eyes, if you could call them that, were hollow, endless pits of despair. It raised a finger to where its lips would be, and I heard a clear, unmistakable shh. The next thing I remember was waking up in my bed, drenched in sweat, convincing myself it was just a nightmare. But the events of that night were far from over. In the following days, the atmosphere in the house grew heavier. Doors would slam shut on their own. Cold drafts would appear out of nowhere, and the sound of chains dragging became a nightly occurrence. My parents started to notice too, and concern replaced their initial skepticism. We tried to find out more about the house's history. Local archives revealed a tragic past. The Harper House belonged to a wealthy family in the late 1800s. The head of the family, Jonathan Harper, was said to have gone mad after the mysterious death of his wife. He spent his last days locked in the library, chained to his desk, writing frantic notes about voices that wouldn't leave him alone. The pieces started to fall into place. The figure in the library, the dragging chains, the whispers. They all pointed to Jonathan Harper's tormented spirit, still lingering in the house. My family debated leaving, but we had invested everything into Harper House. Instead, we sought the help of a local medium. She conducted a séance in the library, attempting to communicate with Jonathan's spirit. The experience was terrifying. Objects flew across the room, the temperature dropped drastically, and the medium spoke in a voice that wasn't her own, conveying Jonathan's anguish and remorse. He spoke of his wife, how he believed her death was no accident, and how his guilt trapped him in this world. The medium helped Jonathan's spirit find peace, revealing the truth about his wife's death. It turned out she was murdered, and the real culprit was a close family friend, driven by greed. With the truth revealed, Jonathan's spirit was finally able to let go and move on. After that night, the house felt different. The oppressive atmosphere lifted, and the strange occurrences ceased. We continued to restore the house, respecting its history and the story of its former inhabitants. Living in Harper House taught me that sometimes the ghosts of the past need us to listen to their stories to help them find peace. And sometimes those stories can be found within the walls of an old, haunted house. However, peace was short-lived. Soon after, new signs of unrest began. It was subtle at first, a flicker of lights, a whisper in the wind. But then it grew more pronounced. One evening, as I walked past the library, I heard the faint sound of sobbing. It was a sorrowful, heart-wrenching cry that seemed to echo through the halls. My heart raced as I pushed open the library door, half expecting to see a ghostly figure. But there was nothing, just the empty room with its rows of dusty books. That's when I realized the house wasn't just haunted by Jonathan Harper. It was a vessel for all the emotions, tragedies, and histories that had transpired within its walls. It was as if the house itself was alive, breathing and remembering. Convinced we needed to know more, my family and I delved deeper into the history of Harper House. We uncovered stories of love, betrayal, joy, and sorrow. Each story seemed to add a layer to the house, making it more than just wood and stone. It was a tapestry of human experiences. Despite the occasional eerie occurrences, we grew to love the house. It became a part of our family, a silent witness to our lives. We respected its past and learned to coexist with the echoes of the stories it held. As I write this, sitting in the once dreaded library, I realize that Harper House is more than just a haunted mansion. It's a reminder that our past, no matter how dark or troubled, is a part of who we are. It shapes us, molds us, and, in some cases, haunts us. But it's also a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, the ability to find peace, and the power of a story well told. And so, the Harper House stands, a beacon in our small town, a house of shadows and stories, always waiting to tell its tale to those who are willing to listen.